If you're in the process of trying to find an apartment here in Boston, thinking where do you begin, where should you be looking, and how do you avoid spinning your wheels trying to lock down an apartment for your move-in date? Well, in this video, we're going over 8 tips and things you want to do to make sure you get your apartment locked down here in Boston. So let's get into it. Hey there, welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. My name is Jacob Peistrup. So, 8 things you want to do, or at least think about when you're moving to Boston trying to get an apartment. Trust me, it can be frustrating, it can be time consuming, and it's a competitive process here in Boston. It is a competitive market with the apartment rental process. And guys, if you have questions, if you're looking to move to Boston to sign a lease, buy a condo, buy a house, whatever it is, I am a realtor here. So if you want help, if you want to work together, let's get in touch. Send me an email, send me a text, whatever works for you. Let's get in touch. Let me help you with that process of moving to Boston and securing your apartment here. So first thing on the list, and one of the most important things if you're coming to Boston, you want to plan in advance. You want to plan early. If you think you're starting too early, you're probably not. So you want to plan that move 3 to 6 months ahead of time before you get to Boston. I mean, it is a competitive market here. Things go quickly. It can be very crazy and hectic finding an apartment. People will start 9 to 12 months in advance. I kid you not, it is crazy. You want to plan ahead of time. If you're stuck moving at the last minute, I know, lots of stuff changes. I've had people get last minute job offers, last minute relocation with their family and whatnot. And if you're stuck finding an apartment at the very last minute here in Boston, you could find something. You're gonna have options, but you might not love what you get. You might have to settle. You might not really get your first choice, and you might not be able to find everything you're looking for if you wait until the last minute. So give it 3 to 6 months. I mean, that's what I usually say. If it's listed, it's ready to go. Like if you see listings online, they're taking applications, they're doing showings. It's not too early to start looking for your apartment. Now in Boston, September 1st is the most common move-in date. So a lot of leases in Boston run from September 1st to August 31st. So basically, any time from January 1st to September 1st is busy season. That is apartment season. That is apartment hunting season. I mean, really 8 months out of the year, people are finding apartments, people are signing leases. The only really off season we have is from September 1st to the end of the year. And then the cycle starts all over again. January 1st to September 1st is the busy season for any apartment that starts with that September 1st move-in date. The second really big thing, you gotta know where to look. You need to find reliable sources because not every place you go that advertises apartments is gonna be the most reliable and up-to-date source. Zillow, by far the most popular, the most common, it's the one everyone is familiar with. Zillow's a good place. The thing you want to watch out for on Zillow is you got to make sure what you're looking at is actually still available, because listing agents on Zillow are notoriously bad at the whole bait and switch thing. So they will leave those listings up after they've been rented because they get lots of leads, they get lots of tenants that reach out when it's already rented. So it's not the most reliable, but it has, a lot of options, and it's one of the most popular sources people use. Same with, apartments.com, realtor.com, Redfin, very similar to Zillow. If you're looking somewhere like Facebook or maybe Craigslist or in a group on Facebook, you will see a lot of other options that are maybe for sublets or people trying to find roommates. A lot of roommate matching groups on Facebook. So again, you can find listings on there, just make sure they're actually still available. Facebook, Craigslist, good places to find individual rooms, good place to find sublets, and good place to find roommates if you need someone else to live with you, or if you're just trying to rent a bigger unit, you want to have someone else help you pay that lease. Now, another option is using an agent. So I'm an agent, I have tenants that reach out all the time. I will send them a link to their own search that has the most up-to-date and most accurate listings, because we don't do any of the bait and switch BS like you'll see on Zillow. So the MLS is always the most reliable and up-to-date, but it also doesn't include off-market options. So off-market options are kind of kept between agents or between brokerages. So in that case, it depends on who you're talking to, because one agent doesn't always have access to all off-market listings, depending on what the agreement is between the landlord or the owner and that real estate firm. So anything off-market, it just depends. Now, the third thing you gotta plan for is the budget. You gotta set money aside, because in Boston, it might cost you 4 months of rent to move into an apartment. Now, trust me, I'm sure that sounds ridiculous. That's kind of your worst case scenario. So 4 months of rent is kind of the maximum it should be for your move-in costs. So typically, obviously, the first month of rent and the security deposit. Those are the two big ones. Security deposit typically is 1 month of rent, sometimes less than that, but it cannot be more than that per law. So the security deposit cannot be more than 1 month of rent. Now, having the last month of rent paid up front is also something you'll see here in Boston. And it's not a standard, it just depends. So if you have good credit, income, and a solid history of referrals from landlords or employers, sometimes you can get it waived. So if a landlord feels comfortable with you as a tenant, they might not ask for your last month of rent up front. Sometimes they will, and sometimes they ask for it regardless of credit, income, and references. It just depends on the manager or the landlord, and it depends on the building you're in. So sometimes it is required, sometimes you can get it waived by just having good credit or by having good references. And the last thing you want to budget for is a broker fee, typically worth 1 month of rent. So in Boston, it's usually not free to rent an apartment or a condo. Not every apartment will have a broker fee, and if it does, it's either 1 month of rent or a half month of rent in most cases. Now, the broker fee is still going to be charged whether you use the listing agent directly or you use another agent like myself or somebody else. So whether there is only one agent involved as the listing agent or whether there's two agents, being myself and the listing agent, it's still going to be 1 month of rent. Basically, it either goes all to the listing agent and their company, or if there's two agents, it just gets split 50-50, my company and their company. So that is the most common fee structure you will see here in Boston. Again, most agents are not free unless the landlord chooses to pay the fee, or if the leasing department for the building, if it's a bigger building, pays the fee for you. In most cases though, there's still going to be a broker fee of 1 month rent unless someone else is paying for it. And whether you want to use the listing agent or another agent, myself or someone else, it's really just a personal preference. That's up to you. You get to pick who you want to work with. In most cases, you're still going to have the fee of 1 month's rent. So really just pick who you want to work with and who you see yourself getting along with during that rental process. Now, the fourth thing on this list, unfortunately, if you're a dog person or a cat person, having pets in Boston can be very difficult when renting an apartment. Sometimes it's really just tough to find. When I have clients who have pets, sometimes it really lowers your options from this many apartments to this many. So you might have a couple choices. There's not going to be many if you have a dog or a cat though. And if you find one, if you move in with your pet, make sure you keep that place in good condition, because landlords love to take security deposits for dogs that scratch up the floors or cats that scratch up the cabinets or anything like that. So make sure if you have pets here, you keep that place in good condition to protect your security deposit. The fifth thing you want to think about: utilities. Are those included or excluded? And you want to factor that into your budget, because not every apartment is going to include utilities in the monthly rent. Some apartments will include everything, and some apartments don't include any utilities. So it just depends on where you're living and if it's a bigger apartment building or if it's a smaller individual condo. Be aware that not everything in Boston will include utilities in the rent. So when I send listings to my clients, I can tell you if you have a specific apartment you're looking at, I can look it up. I can tell you whether it includes anything or nothing at all. Number 6, when signing a lease, especially if you're choosing to not use an agent, if you're working directly with the landlord, especially listen to this. You want to read the lease carefully. Now, most landlords in Boston use a pretty standard lease, but where they get creative is with any addendums or clauses they add to it. So this is really where landlords will add any extra rules, any extra policies they have. You want to make sure that you are aware of those, and you want to make sure that they're legal, because sometimes landlords will try to throw in something that is not exactly legal in a clause or an addendum they have on their lease. I mean, there is all sorts of crazy stuff people will try to put into a lease. Sometimes legal, sometimes not so much. My point being, read it carefully, know what you're signing, and if you need help, ask for it. Whether it's an agent or an attorney, if you need help with that, have somebody guide you through the process of signing the lease and understanding what the landlords can and cannot ask of you as the tenant. The 7th thing is when you move in, if something's wrong, if something doesn't seem right, if something is broken or not working, whatever the case might be, you want to document it, you want to get it in writing, take pictures. When you move into an apartment here in Boston, you have 15 days after moving in to fill out basically an apartment condition statement. So it's optional, but if you choose to fill out this form, it basically is your way of stating upfront within 2 weeks of moving in if there are any damages, anything wrong, or anything that's not working within your apartment. Take pictures, get it in writing, put it on that apartment condition statement if there's anything wrong in your apartment. This is to protect you, protect your security deposit, and make sure that you are not held liable if you find anything that is broken within those first 15 days of living there. Now, like I said, it's optional. Your landlord should give it to you, or your agent should give it to you basically when you move in or before you move in. If the apartment's great, if everything works, then you don't have to fill it out. But if something is broken or not working, you want to fill out that form to make sure that the agent and the landlord are aware it was broken, it was like that when you moved in, and most importantly, you're not the one who broke it. Now, the 8th and final thing when moving to Boston, trying to find an apartment is if you find something you like, get it. Take it and run, lock it down, and make it yours if you find something that seems like the right fit for you. I cannot emphasize this enough. If you find something that really seems like a good fit and you could see yourself living there, make it yours, get it locked down, make that apartment yours. Because like I said, Boston is competitive, it is crazy. We have people moving from all over the country and all over the world coming to Boston for different reasons. It is a competitive market for renting an apartment here. So if you find something that really meets most of your standards, make it yours. You don't want to gamble maybe sitting around and waiting for something better to come on, because it might not come, and if it does, it might not be within your budget. And really, this is when you gotta sit down and think what is a must-have and what is a nice-to-have. Whether it's having in-unit laundry or AC or a private roof deck, whatever it is that is non-negotiable for you, be aware of that, think about that, and when you find something that meets all of that, take it and make it yours. A lot of times people will spend too much time second guessing themselves and waiting for other options when they find a place that meets most of their criteria, maybe not everything from their wish list. So if something seems to match 80% of your needs, go for it. Take it and run, because it can be difficult to find something else that'll have all of your needs in an apartment here. Now, if you have a flexible move-in date, or you have the luxury of waiting a little bit longer to find something else you like, then great. You can choose to maybe miss out on one apartment and try to find a different one. But if you're down to the last minute trying to find an apartment, it can be difficult to pass something up and hope that a better option comes on the market, because sometimes it doesn't. And lastly, if you're moving to Boston, if you're coming here trying to find an apartment and narrow in on the right fit for you and sign a lease, let's get in touch if you want to work together. Like I said, I am here for anyone moving to Boston. So send me an email, send me a text. Let's get together if you want to work on finding an apartment for you. in Boston. So that is gonna wrap things up for today. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Hope you take care. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next one right here on the Living Boston channel.